Okay, so this is part 9, probably the last part to the series of videos that I've created for you guys today. This is where we're going to focus on transferring all of the detail from the image of your superhero on your reference photo onto your larger sheet, okay? Which is gridded. The grid is going to have some empty spots here in the 4 corners, and that's okay. Do not worry about that. Again, all you need to ensure is that your center points match up with the reference center points in terms of what letters and numbers are surrounding them, okay? And my recommendation for transferring for a beginner would be working from the top row and continuing through each row, almost as if the printer was the image was being printed out by a laser jet printer, right? When you were printing the picture, you kind of see it appear as it comes out of the printer. So to do that, you want to get a blank sheet of paper or an opaque ruler or something where you can cover up the remaining part of the image that you're not transferring. That way you're just focused on the correct spots. You're constantly checking in with the X and Y axis to make sure that you are constantly in the right area, right? And you're just kind of focusing in on whatever is in that box and moving from one to the other. And then when you're ready to go to the next level, just release the image as you work through it. That way, again, you're not overwhelmed with the remaining part of the image while you're trying to focus on a small area up here or down here or wherever, okay? As you work lower down the image, you can take another sheet of paper and start blocking out the top. If that helps as well, you could get 2 sheets so that you're blocking out multiple areas, right? To ensure that you've got correct focus on whatever area you're working on developing. When you get the entire figure transferred over, that's when you can start going in and really erasing and correcting your lines. Maybe a curve needs to be fixed. Maybe something looks really flat and straight and you need to add a little bit of curve to it, perhaps to define a muscle or whatnot. Maybe after you finish transferring his shield, for instance, it looks really wonky and wobbly and you just need to straighten out your lines and make this curve nice and clean. You can go back in and fix it over and over again. That's the beauty of this stage. Although it's technical and really, really stressful, it's probably the most difficult part of this entire assignment. But this is the challenging part where you're going to learn a lot and you're going to realize that illustrating isn't about, you know, just drawing perfect lines and perfect circles and perfect definition. It takes a lot of editing and revising and redoing and erasing and redoing. So if you're finding that you're struggling and you're constantly redoing little parts of the image, that is not a bad thing. That's actually great because you're noticing what needs to be tweaked and you're trying your best to make that change come to fruition. So that's fantastic. If you're noticing, you know what, this does not look right, or perhaps you put the arm in and you notice your arm is too high, too low, maybe the fist is too small in comparison to the size of the rest of his body. That's your mind kind of in the background checking in on the proportions of the figure, right? We discussed the principle of proportion and how important that is when you're rendering something that's figurative, because when you're rendering features on a face or limbs on a body, you're constantly thinking, does it make sense? Right? Does it make sense in relation to the rest of the figure? And the reason why drawing comic superheroes is a nice introduction to drawing figures in grade 9 is because they are cartoon, and what we do know about cartoon figures is that their proportions are actually exaggerated, right? Their legs are longer, more muscular, their heads are either smaller or larger compared to the human head in comparison to the size of the torso and so on. So everything is a bit skewed. That way, if your drawing is a little bit off, but you complete it really neatly, you could probably sell it and nobody will notice that it's off, right? So again, that is our task for today. You just want to make sure that you go row by row all the way down. You want to be transferring all of the line work, including any small detail line work, anything that you see that's black, and you can go ahead and shade in larger black areas where you have a lot of core shadow, like underneath his pec here, in his thigh area. There's some coarse shadows on the reflection that's on the shield, underneath his neck, into his collar area here. I've got a lot of coarse shadow. So what I've been doing is I've been just very carefully going row by row, trying to nail all of the lines. Even as an instructor, I'm going back and doing a lot of erasing and redoing. So I got this done in about an hour. Just strictly focusing on blocking everything in and tweaking it a lot. I feel like had I not gone back and tweaked and erased it so much, I probably would have been down to his waist in an hour. But I've been taking my time and trying to perfect it the best that I can, and that's what I'm hoping you guys can do. So realistically, I mean, if I'm working extremely slowly on this and I got his head and his shoulders done in an hour, if you're working just as slowly and carefully, you could probably get your entire figure done in 4 to 5 hours, which would be 1 studio period working from home. If you want to be super careful and take extra time with it, if you find that you're constantly erasing and going back, you might use a day and a half of studio periods to complete the pencil work. Either way, your next day in class, you should be just about done, if not completely done, transferring all of the pencil work over to your good copy sheet. Do not erase any of the grid yet. We're going to look over it to see if, again, we need to go back and clean up any lines. At that point, we can discuss inking it with some black ink and then erasing your grid lines. But let's keep the grid lines there right until we're completely done transferring the full figure all in pencil and we're happy with it, so that we don't have to reference any more locations on your rough or your reference photo, okay? So I'm going to keep working on this, and you guys can continue working on your end, and I can't wait to compare to see what we've come up with.